Welcome to the lecture for Chapter 16 on Meetings and Events. Although technology continues to grow and impact our daily lives, Chapter 16 reminds us of the importance face-to-face communication will always have. Meetings and events allow us to see each other and to interact through all five senses. Meetings and events, however, just don't happen. We have to be aware of what it takes to put these together so we will be prepared when we are in that situation. This lecture goes over the major types of meetings and events PR professionals will plan in their careers. Let's begin by looking at group meetings. Meetings are a popular way to bring people together. There are millions of meetings a year for civic clubs, professional societies, trade associations, and hobby groups. There are several things that need to be considered when planning a meeting. These include planning, registration, and the program. We'll start with planning. The textbook identifies several important elements of the planning process that you'll need to consider when you set up a group meeting. First, you'll need to decide upon a location. You should consider if a room needs to be reserved and if it will hold everyone. Second, you'll need to think about the seating for those who attend. Not only do you have to have enough seats for everyone, but you need to consider how to set them up so people can listen to someone speak or so people can interact. The third thing to consider are the facilities. A group meeting may need a considerable amount of equipment and furnishing, so you'll have to think it through if you have everything. Necessary facilities can include a meeting identification at the building entrance, lighting, charts, screens or monitors, microphones, seating and tables, wiring, a speaker's podium, and water and glasses, among other things. And fourth, you should think about invitations. These can be included in newsletters or flyers, but mail and email are also used. Make sure to send invitations out 3 to 6 weeks in advance of the meeting so people will have time to plan for it. The next major part to a group meeting is the registration. A PR practitioner should always have someone in charge of a greeting, such as a representative who welcomes attendees at the entrance of the room. There should also be name tags, which are almost always a good idea. The last part to the group meeting is the program. The program provides a guideline for what people at the meeting will either listen to or do at the meeting. Oftentimes, PR practitioners arrange for a speaker to address the audience. Speakers should be chosen months in advance. And there can be meals served depending on the length of the meeting and the time. What type of meal will be provided needs to be considered, taking into account vegetarian and vegan diets. And the PR practitioner must get an accurate count of how many people will attend, so everyone will get a meal. Banquets are a second type of event you may be in charge of as a PR practitioner. By definition, these are fairly large and formal functions that are held to honor an individual, raise money for a charity, or celebrate an event. These require invitation packages that are mailed to prospective guests because it typically is a special event. Banquets can range from 100 to 1,000 people. Planners need to consider food, room rental, bartenders, decorations and centerpieces, audio-visual requirements, speaker fees, entertainment, photographers, invitations, tickets, and marketing and promotion. Banquets have considerable logistics and planning that have to be figured out. A PR practitioner should develop 3 timelines. One timeline for the entire process from beginning to end, one timeline to plan out the few days before or the day of the event, and one timeline for the event itself. I encourage you to view a sample of a banquet timeline on page 429 of the textbook. Another type of event is receptions and cocktail parties. The purpose of these is to get people to socialize. The focus should be on interaction, not speeches. But if you do have a speech, it should only be about 5 to 10 minutes long. Receptions and cocktail parties usually last up to 2 hours. The location should allow people to stand and move freely rather than sitting down. These require a lot of planning. You need to think about food that can be eaten while standing up. Appetizers are always a good idea. Most receptions include a hosted bar that usually offers alcoholic drinks, but you should always include non-alcoholic drinks as well. Items such as coffee, tea, and punch are good options. Open houses and plant tours are conducted primarily to develop favorable opinion about an organization. Customarily, these are one-day affairs, and attendees are invited, but sometimes they are open to the public, media, and anyone who chooses to attend. These must be planned well since they try to give a favorable view of the organization. There are several major factors a PR practitioner needs to consider when planning an open house or plant tour. These include the day and hour of the event, how many guests will be invited, how to handle publicity and invitations, vehicles that will be needed, the reception, the focal point of activity, or what will guests be given a tour of, access to restrooms, the safety of the guests and the workers, the specific route the tour will take, who will serve as guides, an explanation of either the plant or the product, attention to housekeeping and attire of the employees, and what will be done in case of an emergency. Conventions are a series of meetings usually spread out over 2 days or more. The purpose of these is to bring people to exchange information, discuss and act on common problems, and enjoy recreation and social interchange. These are most often held by national membership groups and trade associations. Because conventions are almost always out of town for those who attend, the following needs to be considered. You will find these considerations similar to what we've already discussed for the other events. The first is planning, and this includes the timing of the convention, the location or what city the convention will be held in, the facilities, and the exhibits that will be included. Conventions also need a program. What recreation and entertainment will be provided, how many people will attend, and the overall administration of the event. Another popular event are trade shows, and these are known as the ultimate marketing event. About 6,000 trade shows are held annually in the U.S. and range in size from several thousand to over 100,000 attendees. About 65 million people attend trade shows on an annual basis. There are 3 major things a PR person needs to know about in relation to a trade show: exhibit booths, hospitality suites, and press rooms. Exhibit booths should be placed in an area that provides maximum visibility by the attendees. The PR practitioner should start planning 6 to 12 months in advance, and the booth should give people an opportunity to interact with something at the booth. It's a good idea to use involvement techniques, such as a raffle or even free massages. It's also advisable to use bright colors and large signs to get attention. Have knowledgeable people run the booth to answer questions, and offer useful souvenirs, such as keychains or luggage tags. Hospitality suites are usually done in conjunction with an exhibit booth. They are used to entertain key prospects, give more in-depth presentations, and talk about business. Although food and entertainment are usually provided in hospitality suites, the main purpose is to generate leads that can result in sales. And finally, press rooms are often utilized at trade shows. This is where exhibitors distribute media kits and other information to journalists. Although this is great for journalists to attend, almost every journalist wants to hear about companies and products before the show starts. Media relations starts before the show, continues through the show, and afterwards, the PR professional has to do follow-ups with all of the journalists to provide additional information. Promotional tours are a final event that the textbook discusses. These are usually planned to promote a product, increase organizational visibility, make friends, and to raise money for a charitable cause. Creativity is the one essential skill you need for these. PR professionals need to think of something that is different that can create an interest. Grand openings are relatively routine, so it is important to think of new and exciting things to celebrate and promote. PR practitioners often use celebrities to attract attendance and attention. But be careful, celebrities can be a major budget item, and you'll need to make sure that the celebrity you choose matches the demographic you're addressing. Finally, the PR professional will need to consider the overall planning and logistics for the promotional tour. Don't forget to consider permits, liability issues, security, and release forms if necessary. Thank you for listening to this brief lecture on meetings and events. Today we talked about group meetings, banquets, receptions and cocktail parties, open houses and plant tours, conventions, trade shows, and promotional tours. These are all popular and effective ways that use face-to-face communication to enhance relationships. It is important for us to be aware of the types of events that exist and all of the required planning needed to make them successful.